And welcome to the Pekin First podcast. My name is Josh, and I get the absolute pleasure of serving as the Online Ministries Director right here at Pekin First. And we are on location this time at the Dream Center, and I am here with Denise Bailey. Denise, say hello.
Hello.
All right, and Denise coordinates some the poverty simulations. Tell us what you do here at the Dream Center.
Well, I have the privilege of being the Director of Development, which is fundraising events, and working with donors, which is amazing, and then also Director of Zoe House, but poverty simulations are a part of that.
All right. And Pekin First is putting on a poverty simulation coming up in May. We'll get to details of that here in a minute. We do start every Pekin First podcast off with this week's personal best, and I will go first. So this week, my daughter had a volleyball tournament down at the Riverplex, and it's a pretty large tournament, so we were there most of the day, and she's in with her friends, and my wife was not with me at the time, and I grabbed a lunch and sat outside of the Riverplex, which I've never done. I've been to the Riverplex 100 times. I've never done. I sat outside because it was decent out and could watch barge traffic, and there was nobody else out there, so it was very peaceful. And I got to kind of collect my thoughts and just be in the moment. And that is my positive moment, if you will, of the week. It was just a nice, relaxing week or lunch.
It sounds amazing.
It was.
And it was beautiful that day.
Yeah.
So for me, it is tied into Zoe House, and the moms there are drawing closer to delivery, but one of them is graduating high school. Wow. So we are celebrating with her. She really didn't think she was going to. And so we're doing little fun things for her and reminding her that she is achieving this, that she has earned it, that there's hope for the future too. Like she can do anything she sets her mind to, and that God calls her to do.
All right. Awesome. It's awesome to see and celebrate the moments in life that people didn't think that they were capable of.
She's been told her whole life that she'll never amount to anything, that she's not going to be able to do it. She's not going to graduate from high school. She'll never have a job, and she's doing it.
Yeah.
Now God's doing it in her, and she acknowledges that. She's been posting on social media how her trust in God is what is getting her through. It's amazing.
Nice. Yeah, it's a great thing to celebrate for sure. All right, this is episode 76, and we're going to roll into this. So Pekin First is hosting in May, late May. We are hosting a poverty simulation in Pekin, and we're going to learn a little more about what that entails, where it started, and where it came from. So, Denise, I'm going to let you just where did all of this start? And I know it's before your time, so kind of give us a synopsis of how it became to be.
Sure. Well, and like you just mentioned, I've sort of inherited the program, and before me, there were individuals here at Dream Center that believed not everyone really grasped or could grasp what it would be like to live in poverty if they've never encountered it, never been in a situation like that. And there is a kit that you can purchase. It's a national, at least national, it may be beyond that, but it has everything included. And what happens is people take on a role of, say, your Franco Gutierrez, who is 49 and has 2 children, and he doesn't have a job, but they do have a vehicle. And so the participants walk through 4 weeks of having to pay their bills, having to figure out transportation, how to find resources, and different things happen in the scenario. And the whole goal is to give us more of a heart of compassion and to broaden our understanding. I mean, I was a single mom with 2 daughters and no job years ago. So I have somewhat of an understanding, but we were never unhoused. Mm-hmm. But I've had people say to me over the years, if this person who is experiencing poverty would just get a job, they'd be fine if they would just go get a job. But what they're missing are the obstacles of transportation. What if they are able to find a job, but they're not able to get there on time, or they don't have childcare, or they don't have the clothing that they need to wear to the job? all kinds of different scenarios, or there's a mental health issue at play. Like, there are so many other pieces that go into poverty that create these situations. Some are generational, which means it's been going on for decades, or situational. Someone had a medical issue that took their whole family down. I mean, it could be a variety of reasons. And it is this experience that every time, even when we host it, I'm reminded how difficult it can be for anyone in poverty.
Absolutely. And I grew up in the 80s, the early 80s, and times were tough. The poverty level was high then, as probably as much or as it is now. Can't get that out. But I did do a quick AI search, and it is AI. So, but the Pekin area, the poverty level is 12.8%. Mm-hmm. Peoria, it is 21.8%, right?
Which is almost double the national average. Okay. Well, it is. I mean, but the national average is around 11.4, 11.6. It varies, kind of hangs around there. But that is extraordinarily high, and I think it shocks people. And then I'm sure you have people say, well, in Tazewell County or Woodford County or Fulton County, we really don't have poverty like they do in Peoria. But it is real, and there are many families. They might be a little more hidden or less visible, but the poverty is there too.
Well, and for a lot of families, just as I did grow up, we made it work. It was not easy. And a lot of these, you talk about the single mom with two kids or a kid and having trouble finding daycare, and you find a way to make it work, per se, but giving people the tools to make it work makes it way easier and way more. The success rate is a lot higher, right? Because when you're trying to make it work on your own with no help, the success rate is very, very low.
It is. Yes.
So as we give them the tools of daycare, of transportation, I told you earlier that I manage a lot of properties, and we don't manage anything in the 61605 area code or a zip code, but that's 42% of the people that live in the 61605 are on 42% of them are SNAP, right. or get some sort of benefits. Same with 61606, that number is a little lower, but I see this on a daily basis, and the mom's trying to make it, and so I'm going to personalize this a little bit. So I was sitting with a young lady yesterday. She's way behind on rent. And here I am. I have to make a business decision of, okay, we're going to have to help this girl move on. And as I sat with this girl, she's 22 years old, trying to get through school. No help from mom, no help from grandma. She tried that route, couldn't get there, and I'm sitting in front of her, and I see my daughter. My daughter's 20 years old, mm-hmm. and I see my daughter here, and she doesn't have any kids. But she's trying to make it on her own, and I made that decision. The compassion decision right there is, okay, I'm going to help her work through this, and I had the eviction paperwork in my hand, and I'm like, this is not the way to go with this. I need to help this girl. And that's when God gets a hold of you and says, okay, this girl needs help. So it's not just the single mom. It's a lot of.
Well, it is. And it could be, this has happened here at Dream Center, and we do run a shelter upstairs, and mm-hmm. we can average about 125 to 150 guests a night. And we've had whole families come in mm-hmm. where mom and dad are both there, or dad with kids, mom with kids, just a variety of scenarios. But some of them are working multiple jobs. They're just not making enough to pay for housing, utilities, transportation, clothing, toiletry items. Mm-hmm. I mean, so many times we'll hear that toiletry items are almost a luxury. They just don't have extra. So there's so much that goes into it, and I don't ever want to be someone who is an enabler, where I just let people sit in, I'm not going to work, I'm not going to, even try. But sometimes people become hopeless and they mm-hmm. give up. And we talked about that. We actually hosted a poverty simulation for another group this morning. And one of the things that came up as a theme was the hopelessness, how the desperation and hitting obstacle after obstacle and having things fall apart may cause someone to give up. And so we want to keep offering hope. We do have a resource-rich community. The Tri-County area, there are many agencies that are working. There are collaboratives. There's just a lot going on. But how do we do it in a way that gives dignity? Because a lot of people are already feeling ashamed, humiliated, embarrassed that they even need help. But can we do it in a way that gives dignity and draws them in and gives them enough of a foundation like you did with this young lady? Hopefully, she'll be able to use that as a foundation to move forward. And they're all different. Mm-hmm. That's the other piece, is that each one is unique and their needs are different. Maybe their trauma or their abuse is slightly different. And I mean, for example, I mentioned mental health. On our shelter floor, 92% of our shelter guests self-assess with a mental health issue. Could be anxiety, depression, could be medicated, unmedicated, diagnosed, undiagnosed, all kinds of things. So sometimes you have to start a little deeper or start, just one thing at a time. You can't address all of it at once. I don't know. There are so many ways to even go with that. But I appreciate that you even think about offering a bit of help. Is there a way she can get ahead?
Well, and so her comment to me was, I guess I'm going to have to back off of school. And that's when it got real for me, right? Because my daughter's in school to become a nurse. She was in school to become a nurse. It got real. And I'm like, the next words on my mouth was, okay, you are not going to back off school because here's how we're going to help you. And there's agencies that can help her because she was doing clinicals, which are, that's working for the school basically with little or no pay.
Right.
So then she's having to go work at a nursing home. So now she's working doubles. And I'm like, okay, there's agencies that will help you. And ICC quit paying for housing or something happened there. I know they were paying for a little while and when they didn't have available student housing. So something has changed. So there, there's agencies that will help you. So I pointed her, you point them to those. And those are the agencies that I feel that people who are trying and they just need that little extra step. And I see great things for this girl, and that was just it, man. It just popped on me. The other part of all of this is you mentioned mental health, and I'm a huge mental health person. It's in my family. It's all over the place, and I truly believe that the mental health facilities that we have here are great. The ones that we can. They're always full. And I believe that's a huge part of all of this.
Well, it is. And trying to even help some of our guests or our residents at Zoe House schedule appointments, many times they're months out because we do have great therapists, great institutions that are helping with mental health, but it's overwhelming even for them. Mm-hmm. There aren't enough of them to go around. And something else we have discovered is that even if there is an appointment scheduled, if someone is struggling with mental health, they may not make it to that appointment. Mm-hmm. They might make the choice to not go because they're too depressed or they're too overwhelmed. And I don't know, there are a whole lot of things I would love to see in place. And one of the things that we do at Zoe House, and I know some of the local agencies will do, is send a car to pick someone up. They're providing transportation. That's another way that we can make a difference. But then, if the car shows up and the person won't actually get in, I mean, we can't force them, but offering everything we possibly can and then just praying that they take that help. Mm-hmm. And not all landlords have integrity in the way that you do. So we're so thankful for those who are offering housing. And then, we're watching underserved people or people just on the bubble who are then taken advantage of too.
Yeah. And speaking of on the bubble, a lot of families, they're making it, But then you get let's talk about current environment. Okay, so now you get gas that doubled, and I have to get to work, but it's it's $50 to fill up my tank. Well, I've only got $20 to last the week. That gets me to work 3 days. You know what I mean? And so now I'm calling out too because I literally can't get there. And I that's honestly that's what worries me as with people who are on the bubble, is that it only takes, and I think in a promo that you guys have, it says it only takes that one situation. It's the heat going out. It's the
Right.
it's if they own their house, heat going out, or it's the child getting sick, or mom getting sick, or somebody getting sick. It's just that one thing.
And then that pushes them down that slippery slope that starts, and they really have a difficult time stopping it. And then how to climb back out of that feels impossible. And so we hear accounts of things like this all the time. And I didn't intend to be a single mom with no job. And I found myself in that situation. And thankfully, I had family members out of state who could support in a way. I mean, minimally, but I knew I had a safety net. So many of the people that we serve here at Dream Center will say things like, I moved here from out of town because I thought I had a job or I had a relationship. It falls apart, and then they have no safety net. Now, there are diversion funds that our housing director, Christy Schofield, can help. For instance, if there is someone from another state who has family or a home there, we can help pay to get them back to where they would have housing. But for someone who is trying to start from scratch, it can feel overwhelming or impossible.
I seen a reel that had popped up in my Facebook feed, and it was Jeff Foxworthy, and he met this guy who brought him into a homeless shelter. And the first thing he asked was, what's your story? How do you get here? And that's one of the things I feel like we need to ask more is what's your story? How can I help you? Or how did you get here? That's maybe not the right wording, but the same concept.
Mm-hmm. Well, and realizing that each individual has a story, that they are an individual that has value, and that one of our core values is to give dignity, offer compassion, and to ignite purpose. But the giving of dignity and recognizing, no, God sees this person, says they have value, and we want to treat them with that level of respect. I mean, there are times when shelter guests or others we're serving, maybe in the Hope store, might have a bit of an attitude, or they might be acting angry or frustrated. And even this morning, we were talking about how that frustration can be born out of desperation. Like, I don't know how I'm going to feed my family tonight. I don't have resources for this or for that. And just remembering that there's always a reason behind their behavior, and it might have been someone else's decisions that placed them in the situation they're in too. We hear that, and then thinking of the children. I mean, a third of our guests on the shelter floor are age 17 or younger. We serve so many children and youth, and they're dealing with consequences of definitely someone else's choices and decisions. And I think a lot of times they start out feeling hopeless because this is all they've known. Why would it change?
Right. So the poverty simulation that's coming, give us an idea of how that works, what can be expected, and just all the maybe not all the ins and outs, but a little overview of the ins and outs.
Sure. It is about a 2-hour simulation. When people arrive, they are given a role to play or a new identity. They would be in a specific family unit, and then each family is given a packet where they have to try to achieve their goals of securing their house, finding work if they don't have it, feeding their family, those types of things. And then each family has a unique set of scenarios that they have to live out each week. And it's interesting, the first, and the weeks are each 10 to 12 minutes, and we have 3 minutes in between to regroup. The first week or two, everyone is slowly walking where they need to go. By the third week, generally when I ring the bell, people are sprinting. They're trying to get to the agency where they will get the resources or, to work so that they can get paid, so that they can go to the bank and cash their check. And it's interesting how even just in an hour time difference, people's perspective changes and their desperation ramps up.
Right. I have seen, like I said, you got a promo video out there or and you can see the one of the people, it seems, is frustrated.
Yes.
Trying to get the resources that they need to either, and I don't remember what they were doing, but and just like you said just a few minutes ago, that frustration can turn into anger at the drop of a hat.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
It can escalate. Well, and we do a debriefing at the end, and I am always reminded of why we do this as people begin talking. One lady, this was a few months ago, had tears because she said one of her neighbors dropped something of value. They were transportation passes or something like that. One of her neighbors dropped them. She picked them up, stuck them in her pocket because she knew that she needed those to get to work so that she could pay or that she could buy food for her family. And she goes, I understand a little bit better why someone might steal to care for their family. Not condoning it,
Right.
but saying, I understand.
It's like you said, it's a slippery slope, and that skit, it wasn't a skit, it was a story with Jeff Foxworthy, and it was one hit after another, and that's where the mental health comes in, or the drug abuse comes in, or it's just you get into that. It's a spiral, and it's a quick one.
It is. Well, and even some of the substance abuse or addictions, that might be the only way that person is surviving because of some things that have happened in their past. And again, I'm not condoning it. I want them to find freedom from that. I believe God can help with that for
Absolutely.
sure. And therapy and other things that are a part of that. But it's more understandable why they're in that situation if you can stop and hear their story.
Right. And God gives us the tools, gives each one of us the tools to succeed. Sometimes we need to help others see the tools that are within them, and give them the stepping stones, if you will, to get across the river.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
And that's exactly why we do some of the things that we do here at Dream Center. It's not because we think we have the answers, and it's not because we think a bed or a meal is the answer. We think, no, God's got the answers. Let's help you relax a little bit. Let's meet your basic needs so that you can meet Him and let Him work in your life and in your heart.
Absolutely. All right. The poverty simulation is May 30th from 1 to 3 p.m. There will be a link on our website where you can register and sign up. You can also register in the back of the sanctuary after worship, or you can contact Debbie Helmick or the church office at info@beaconfirst.org. All right. It was a pleasure to have you. Did you have anything else?
No, this was great. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
All right. Awesome. All right. And remember, God put us here to do great things. So let's go do great things.